Hi, and welcome to this episode of Bloodhound Pix, where I am one of your hosts, Craig.
I'm Kyle.
And I'm Josh.
And this episode, we will be discussing the two movies that I picked, which are going to be Riki-Oh, the story of Riki, and Save the Green Planet. Riki-Oh is based off of the Japanese manga and also was an anime series. And then Save the Green Planet was picked again because the original theme that I had, where it didn't work out as well, is that it is a Korean film that made a big splash internationally and was going to get remade and may still potentially, this time by Ari Aster. But both of these films are kind of very outrageous in certain elements, be it through their campiness or their crazy plot or whatever it may be. So, let's talk first about Riki-Oh. I know this was, I did find a theme actually, because I was trying to, that these are both two movies that I actually found through comedians and stuff like that instead of the horror community, so that's the only way I was able to tie them together. And same with Kyle's pick, which will be our next episode. It's something that I found through comedians and not the horror community. But let's talk about Riki-Oh, since Kyle read the anime, or watched some of the anime, and I think he read some of the manga. I'm going to ask what he thought in a second, but the story, again, is about Riki-Oh, who is sent to prison, and it's in the near future where prisons are privatized. And he's sent there, and you don't know very much about him, other than that's revealed throughout the movie. But he's, believes in justice. He's a good person, and this is a horrible prison where each cell block is run by a different gang and has their gang leader. And because Riki-Oh is putting his nose in things and, protecting the common man, he gets into some fights with all these people, and then everybody's trying to stop him. So it becomes a big... Basically, the movie is going from one fight to the next. But the funny part about it is, especially watching it dubbed, which I think is the only way in the States we can watch it. And the movie is just ridiculous in its gore and everything about it. It's crazy and it's funny unintentionally and probably intentionally at times. But I love it. It's one of those ones I know I've talked to Kyle about where I've been trying to find for years the Blu-ray of it, but it's kind of out of print, or if it is available, it's way more expensive than I think most people want to pay for a Blu-ray. So, Kyle, what were your thoughts? I know this was your first watch, and could you talk a little bit about the manga and the anime?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah, I was telling Josh it's weird because I've seen clips from it before, so I knew what I was getting into, but I'd never seen it before. But I loved it. By like 10 minutes in, I was like, I need to buy this movie, pretty much. And then saw how expensive those Blu-rays were, and I was like, okay.
You can get a DVD copy of it for pretty cheap, though.
Okay. Yeah.
The Blu-ray is like $50, but there were DVD copies of it, I think, for like, I don't know, 12.
It's worth $50. It just,
It's probably worth $50, yeah.
If they have special features, if you learn anything about how they made that shit. But yeah, I mean, I loved it. It's so over the top and insane and funny with the dubbing, but it's fine. And it's such a simple story that's like, every 2 minutes, someone's getting punched through their body or something. I didn't read the manga yet, but I have it if you guys ever want to look at it. And then they made like two 45-minute-ish anime movies. They're both on YouTube. I watched one of them, which was basically, it was just a movie in like 45 minutes. It was good. It's weird. It's funny because it wasn't as good because like that kind of violence is less over the top somehow when it's animated,
Okay. And so, Josh, your thoughts. I know you've seen it before, but watching it this time.
Oh, yeah. I had seen it before, yeah. Riki-Oh is fucking amazing. I was, obviously, since I'd seen it before, and it was actually not too long ago, I was kind of paying attention to other shit that I wouldn't normally pay attention to, in terms of, whatever the hell I felt like. Like the fact that none of the story makes any fucking sense, and there really isn't a story either, which is very weird because it's almost like it's purposefully confusing. Like that whole thing where they're trying to explain to you, because basically Riki-Oh, the character, is like fucking invincible, right? He's basically Superman, but he doesn't fly. And that whole thing where they try to explain to you, like, why he's that way, and it's just like, huh? What the fuck did you just say? I have no idea what you just said. And also, like, it's almost like well, it is. It's like a women in prison film, like from the 70s, except for it's men in prison film. And there's lots of gay stuff in it, too, that I don't think is really supposed to be in it. The dubbing is fucking hilarious, and how there's so much dialogue that is so fucking pointless. Like, the point when the one guy, I mean, they're all prisoners, I guess, except for the people who work in the prison, but the guy who Riki gives the flute to, and he, like, shows Riki and thereby the audience that his tongue is removed, and so the guy opens his mouth and you can obviously see his tongue is gone, and Ricky's like, oh my god, somebody cut out your tongue. Like, no shit. Or like, you have the other characters who are like illegally growing and selling the opium within the prison walls. Yeah. And Riki, obviously, like you said, Craig, is like, he's not going to stand for, illegal drugs and stuff. So he sets fire to the opium, and one of the, like, evil boss guys comes running out and is like, oh my god, the opium's on fire, as we're, like, watching it burn. Yeah, you're right, it is. And it's also, like, it's set up, like, the structure of the script is it's just a video game, right? Because it's like, he fights one guy, and this guy is kind of tough, but then he fights another guy, and this guy's a little bit tougher, and then he fights another guy, but this guy's even tougher, and it literally is just like a video game that's a movie, which is, for this, if you've never seen Riki-Oh, you need to see it, but yeah, it's just completely bonkers, and the fucking all of the the way that the movie ends, I couldn't think of a better way for that movie to end. Like, it just culminates in this, like, just the just complete fucking ridiculousness of it all is just it's unrivaled. Terrific film.
So, yeah, that was one of the things rewatching it is I forget how many points. It's like, oh, here's somebody that might be working, and like Riki-Oh's friend now. Oh, no, they killed him. He's dead now. It's like you have the old man. Obviously, spoiler alert, but this was made in 1990, so oh well. But you have the old man, you have the boy without the tongue. I mean, you see what happens to his girlfriend. It's like you have all these, the one nice character that helps Riki-Oh, and then is just brutally killed later, like a scene later.
I feel like it's also...
So what were your thoughts on the movie? Yeah.
Well, I was going to say, I think it's a huge influence on Brawl and Cell Block 99. Obviously, that's not as outrageous, but especially the violence, comparatively, it's pretty over the top.
Yeah.
It'd be really cool to see Brawl and Cell Block 99 like remade with that level of violence instead. Because I mean, it's all there's already a shitload of violence and gore and shit in it, but it's also like realistic. Yeah. Whereas everything in Riki-Oh is just like, I mean, it's like a fucking cartoon. It's a video game. So to see Brawl and Cell Block 99 like that
would be amazing.
Yeah, there's a ton of scenes in this movie to, I guess, sell it more, where, as I know Kyle mentioned, as Josh mentioned, where people are getting holes punched through them, where people are getting strangled with intestines, eyeballs are being shot out.
Yes. You have to explain the intestines.
People are getting their faces ripped off.
The intestines, that's one of the middle... Yeah. It's a boss towards the middle who fucking, you think he's gonna kill himself with honor or whatever they're fighting, and he disembowels himself, and Riki-Oh suddenly also is like, no, don't do that. Like, you guys were about to kill each other 2 seconds ago. Okay. And he goes to comfort him, and the guy pulls his intestines out and starts strangling him. I mean, that's genius level.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also people morphing into other, I guess, Super Saiyan up or something in a way. There's, it's crazy, but yes, I don't know how to discuss it in a weird way because of the plot, as I know Josh talked about. But yeah, it's just something I think if you're a fan of gore, if you're a fan of action movies, but it's also fun. Yeah, definitely. I would say to watch it at least once.
You should watch it every day.
Except for you can't.
Yeah, you should buy the Blu-ray and watch it every day.
$50. Yeah. Yeah, so what we're saying is
and so,
you need to see Riki-Oh.
And so next up, we have another kind of very out there film, but this one, even though it has comedy, it's a little more serious at points. It's devastating at points, but this is Save the Green Planet.
저 모르시겠어요? 고향 후배인데? 무슨 고향 후배? 아니 저 혹시 고향이 안드로메다 아니십니까?
follow start and wake away, the clouds are far behind me. Summer smell like lemon drops, so way up on the top, that's where you find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, blue bird fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I?
아무도 없어. 오빠가 지구를 지켜야 돼.
which the story is about a man who is, how do I do this? A man who decides to kidnap the CEO of a major organization because he believes that the CEO is in connection with the aliens who will, on the next lunar eclipse, destroy the planet. And he's helped by his circus performing girlfriend, and through this they're torturing the CEO, and you're kind of learning what happened to this man and why he is the way he is. And then there's some twists, there's some turns. I don't know if we will be able to say it without spoiling the twist at the end, but we'll try not to.
No, we're spoiling everything. Yeah. This is not a spoiler-free podcast. Ever.
So this is one of those ones for me where I was recommended a lot. Everything on paper of this movie, it seems right up my alley in terms of the stuff I love. But this is actually was my first watch, and I've even owned it for a long time. But yeah, it was interesting watching it because it does, like, from the opening credits, there's this silliness to it. There is this kind of bizarre where you're expecting something more like Attack the Gas Station or some other Korean films that came out around that time. But then by the end, it just gets it's hitting you with emotion, and that's the crazy part. It does feel long. I think watching it this time, where you kind of have the first hour is basically a movie almost in itself. It feels like, with the one detective who then is again, spoiler alert, who is then killed, and then they bring in a whole nother detective and a whole nother kind of thing where you almost feel like they could have just shortened a lot of that. But yeah, it's a really interesting movie, and it's another one where I know we've said this about I Saw the Devil, where it is very, its storytelling is very Korean storytelling in that sense. In terms of, I don't know, Ari Aster, I think, is probably one of the few directors who could get the creative control to tackle something like that, but I don't know if he will be able to. Like, I don't know if that's a movie that can really translate without, changing the plot completely into a different type of movie over here. But what were your thoughts? Again, I'll go with Kyle, since I know this was your first watch, and then Josh after that, because I know you've seen it before.
Yeah, this is one the first time I saw the cover, I was like, this is a Craig movie. I gotta tell Craig to watch this movie. I liked it overall. It's definitely not what I expected. I didn't really expect it to be funnier than it was, but yeah, it is much more emotionally resonant, I guess you would say. Although, I was telling Josh, we were both agreed it's a little bit long. I think there was a lot of stuff with the detective's backstory, especially that one guy, which is cool, but it's like you don't really need it necessarily. It never really went anywhere, but it's a weird ass movie. It's effectively weird. I liked I would text Craig when I was watching it because I was like, you said like that first hour is almost a movie in itself, and I kind of agree. I think, I mean, you could make a whole movie just on the guy kidnapping the CEO and just have like those three characters and never even know whether like the aliens are real or not, which we'll get into, of course. I like the way they did all the alien stuff too, because that guy, so the main protagonist just seems crazy, but you do have these kind of like intercut things of like his notebooks and all this pseudoscience about whatever the fuck is going on with the aliens, which was cool. And it was like, is it real? I don't know. But yeah, it's a bit long overall.
Yeah. What were your thoughts, Josh?
Yeah, you could cut out probably at least 20 minutes of that movie. Maybe 30. This movie, this was my initial thought. If you ever are curious what ADHD is like, watch this movie. It was a lot of times seemed directionless. One thing that I will say I did like about it was the amount of genres that it seemed to encapsulate, because it was like a ton of them. But it was also part of the ADHD quality to it, because it would literally go for about 15 minutes, maybe 10 minutes in like the horror genre. And then the next 10 or 15 minutes, it would be a police procedural. And then the next 10 or 15 minutes, it would be something else entirely. You know what I'm saying? And I don't need to get into each and every genre that it goes through, but it goes through a lot of them. And that's part of the ADHD shit I was talking about. But I liked that aspect of it, I think, just because it didn't really work that well for me, but I thought it was interesting. It was an interesting experiment to get into all those genres. I think it should have been funnier, because obviously there's shit in it that is intentionally comedic. But I felt like the scenes that were intentionally comedic could have been funnier, and it's almost like they were like, well, that's too funny, so we can't do that way. I don't know. I'm just hypothesizing, but yeah, it didn't really do a whole lot for me, and it was way too fucking long. At 100 minutes into your movie, you can't have a really extensive flashback sequence explaining why the lead character is nuts. I don't give a shit. And it was like 10 minutes long explaining why the guy, we're spoiling this, the guy's nuts. I don't care. I really don't care. And I about couldn't take it after that, but I did make it through the whole thing. So, yeah, it wasn't for me, but it has some really interesting things going on in it.
Yeah. So I agree with you, Josh, in the sense that there are a ton of points where, especially how it's presented and how ridiculous what he believes is, I guess, that you would expect more humor to come from it, because the whole idea, and I guess kind of spoiling it, is that, well, at one point the CEO, he plays into the main character's whole ordeal, or whole kind of belief, saying that, yes, I am somebody who can contact the alien prince with my hair follicles, but that were cut off, because obviously aliens can only transmit, when they have their hair, which his head gets shaved in the beginning. But he goes on to say the whole plot, or I mean, not the whole plot, but basically the whole setup of what happened, where the alien king, he loved this planet, which is Earth, and he called the green planet, but they accidentally, through it, they killed all of the dinosaurs, and he felt so distraught about that he made, basically, people in his image, which so he's even though he's an alien king, it's also playing into the biblical stories and everything like that. Because then there's a whole point where Earthlings start to rise up. They get more upset. Things like Atlantis start coming up, and them wanting to fight back against their creators, the aliens. And there's he floods it to kill everybody, but there was Noah element, and there's who saved everything. And so they keep doing this experiment of trying to make Earth work, but each and every time we just keep killing ourselves.
And when you watch the movie, that whole story will take you out of it too.
That was long.
Yeah.
Also,
I mean, it's so fucking pointless too, and it's like none of that made any sense. Like I just listened to you explain that, Craig, and I'm like, huh? And it's another.
So I mean, there's even a reference to yeah. And so my thing too, and I know I told Kyle when he was watching it, was there's a point where the CEO, again, won't spoil too much, but we end up will. So here's the spoiler. If you are listening, jump ahead, I guess, 1 minute, or I don't know. The spoiler. He actually is the alien king. And so that's the big thing at the end. Is the whole movie you think he's just crazy, the main character, but in truth he isn't. The CEO is the alien king, and then they decide that Earth is not worth it. They destroy the planet, and then you are left with basically images of the main character as at happier times, because he had this horrific life due to aliens doing experiments on certain people to see if they can genetically grow from tragedy or grow from sickness or stuff like that.
Yeah.
End of spoiler.
We should say, I mean, leading up to that, the protagonist and his girlfriend die, and they're lying there dying,
Yeah.
and his last thing is like, who's gonna save the planet now? And you're like, this guy still fucking believes this shit, and it seems like very tragic. Yeah. And then you get that twist, which is a cool idea for a twist, but you're also just like, well, that's a really fucking shitty feeling ending now. Like, he was actually fucking right, and he and he failed, and he died, and the entire planet was destroyed. What the fuck?
Yeah. Well, and then it gets to the point that the CEO, he reads through all of his journals and realizes how much horrible stuff that these aliens have put on him, and he's crying about it, and he's upset. But then when he gets back to his ship, he's just kind of like, that's gone. He doesn't have the empathy for the experiments anymore. It's like, no, kill him or whatever. But yeah, so that is Save the Green Planet. Do you have any last kind of ideas on it? Any last comments before we, I guess, wrap this one up?
I mean, if you're looking for something super weird, it's a good oddball choice.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. It's just way too fucking long.
Yeah. So I mean, we're all pretty much in agreement. I think it is one that I'd be interested to see, because I think there's a lot of plot elements in it. And again, on paper, I think it sounds amazing. But I'm curious to see what could happen in somebody else's hands. But also, I don't know if, again, it could work in anybody else's hands. So it's in that weird place.
You could definitely. Someone could tighten it up, but I don't think they could do the emotional. Like, I think it's too late to do the backstory when you do it, the flashbacks. But I thought they worked emotionally. I don't think people would accept that an American movie, they would be like, what? It's funny, and he thinks there's aliens, and now he has a sad backstory? I don't get it.
Yeah.
Apparently, the same director is the one that's going to direct the English language remake.
Oh. Okay.
So Ari Aster is just producing it.
Yeah. It's going to be one of those ones where they're going to get A-list actors, and it's going to be a fucking mess of a movie.
It's going to be like I Saw the Devil. It's not going to happen.
It's going to be worse than I Saw the Devil.
Okay, so that is the end of our episode. Next time it will be Kyle's pick, and this is another one actually for me that I learned about through comedy stuff over horror, but you'll find out because his pick is we're switching gears and going to I guess a limited series of Garth Marenghi's Dark Place, which is the cult comedy 6-episode series with Matthew Holness, who wrote, directed, starred in as Garth Marenghi. You have Matt Berry as one of his first big roles. Alice Lowe, Richard Iota, or Iodi, I can't remember his full name. But there's a whole great cast of kind of all those Mighty Boosh people, if you like that show. But yeah, I'm really excited to actually talk about that. I'm glad that Kyle picked it. But for now, that is all. And thank you for listening. And obviously, always rate, comment if you watch these movies and you like them. Also, comment if you have any obscure or independent movies that you think deserve to be highlighted. So then we have more content to be able to give you and talk about. Because we're always looking for more suggestions. But until then, see you next time.
Bloodhound Pix podcast is part of the Morbidly Beautiful Podcast Network. Produced by Josh Lee, Craig Drum, and Kyle Hintz. Music by Raymond Seed. Editing by Kyle Hintz.